Yeah, you can start whenever you're ready.
Okay, hi. Look, William raised a hand. Okay, I thought I would see the people joining as they came in, but I couldn't see it. Hi, everybody. Um, Welcome to today's session on online learning for students on the autism spectrum. I'm Christine Hughes, and I'll provide a little more background on me at the moment, in a moment. But first, I'd love to know who's all out there. You can type directly into the chat at any time. So if you're an educator who works in the classroom with students on the autism spectrum, give a shout out. If you are a higher education instructor who is preparing others to work with a variety of learners, including those with autism spectrum disorder, let us know that you're here. And if you are a person with autism, please contribute your comments. Your point of view is so important to this conversation. We'll do our best to keep up with your valuable input in the chat, and there'll be a Q&A session, Q&A section later in the session. So hopefully we can address as many of you as possible. I am so glad you're here. I have attached a copy of the PowerPoint that we'll be viewing today in the file section of the session information on the conference website. And on the last slide of the PowerPoint today, you'll find resources that you can check out with some helpful links that I've added for your perusal. And last but not least, stick around until the end of the session so I can give you that all-important keyword you need to get PD credit for your attendance today. So allow me to introduce myself. I'm Christine Hughes, and I'm actually a music specialist with the Bartlett City Schools District in Bartlett, Tennessee. I teach general music at Bartlett Elementary, which is an arts integration school. Now, arts integration is an approach to teaching that can be effective for all learners, but it really fills a lot of gaps for those with communication and social challenges. And this session is going to explore some of the ways to reach those students using arts integration online, among other strategies. I've done quite a bit of presenting on topics such as teaching music to special learners and creating an inclusive classroom. I've authored a few pieces on arts integration and music for autistic learners for the Tennessee Arts Commission and Teach magazine. I'm the special needs advocate at my church, and I also have a 15-year-old son who is extremely affected by autism. So I feel really blessed to come to you today with the perspective of both an educator and a parent when thinking about navigating education and neurodiversity. So, of course, we want to be respectful and accurate when talking about autism and education. So I'll just take a moment to define a few terms that will pop up throughout today's presentation. Autistic people / people with autism. When referring to individuals on the autism spectrum, there is no single term that absolutely everybody likes. Individuals with ASD or autism spectrum disorder is more of a medically preferred term. However, multiple studies indicate that people on the autism spectrum, their friends, and their families prefer either person-first language, for example, a child with autism, or identity-first language, for example, an autistic child. I personally lean toward the word autistic because it describes my son's neurology, which is an integral part of how he experiences the world. And for the purposes of this presentation, I'll use a variety of terms to hopefully be as inclusive and descriptive as possible. And I hope that feels okay to everyone. I welcome any input that you have on this topic, and I hope you'll share your perspective in the chat. The autism spectrum. Autism is a collection of neurological conditions that are all intertwined. All people who experience autism experience all of its traits, but just in varying degrees. I'm going to offer some suggestions and guidance today on how to serve learners with autism in general, but your relationship with an autistic person will inform you best about that person's unique strengths and needs. Pay attention to the individual. Asynchronous learning. This is a word that all of us have probably gotten a lot more familiar with in the last couple of months. This is the idea that students learn at different times in different locations. We're here today to talk mainly about how to maximize success for autistic students when they are learning asynchronously, but I will mix in a few strategies and ideas for virtual meeting that would take place in real time. We will discuss the challenges of serving our autistic students online in the coming school year and beyond. What changes we can make in our delivery that will be well suited to autists learning at home. Which tools might help us in our endeavors to keep instruction effective and connective while addressing our students' IEP goals or learning objectives, as well as their emotional needs. And I'll leave time at the end for Q&A, but I also would like to share a success story that might inspire feelings of positivity and efficacy in all of us as we move forward into this brave new world of instruction online. Okie dokie. So let's get into it. The challenges. I'm going to address the first two issues together as they are so closely related. So let's talk about communication and behavior. When stress and anxiety levels increase, many with ASD who use verbal language may lose their ability to access some of their words and instead use behavior to communicate. We need to look at communication support strategies that can help when a breakdown in expression occurs, whatever form that expression may take. Socialization. Individuals with ASD are more susceptible to social isolation and loneliness than others, and this may be worsened by sheltering in place. Assessment. Students all have different learning goals. More than 7 million children in US schools have IEPs or individualized educational plans, leaving no room for a one-size-fits-all resolution. And student engagement / family support. Students will miss routines and interactions with both peers and teachers at school. So not only are families responsible for all of the socialization needs of their child, but the educational supervision of much or all of their work as well. A functional skills teacher in my district said to me, most of my students cannot stay engaged without an adult in close proximity. So many parents of autistic kiddos become teachers in a capacity that's even greater than what may be necessary in a neurotypical household. They need resources to help them meet all of these needs. So the changes, what's possible? I'm going to talk first about changes that we should consider when working with children who may be in a functional skills class, and require this type of student might require more supervision and so forth. But then I'm going to talk about strategies for meeting the needs of students in typical classrooms or higher education settings who may work more independently, but still require certain accommodations to be successful. Even though I said there's no single one-size-fits-all solution, but we're going to try to stimulate your ideas for some strategies that you can use whoever you are. Every teacher should set up an access point for online instruction and class news. It could be your school's preferred LMS or learning management system, like Google Classroom. My district uses a product called Curve. It could be a social learning platform like Flipgrid, or it could even just be a weekly email, but it has to be something that is accessible for all. If you've got a great resource that you love to share, please share it with us in the chat. We'd all benefit greatly from learning from each other. But regardless of what you choose, within this resource, you can provide information and support in the following manners. So, communication. Provide strategies implemented in the classroom that can help support communication at home. And here are some strategies that you can impart. For functional skills kids, support social communication by controlling access. This might mean altering the home environment, for example, placing highly preferred activities in hard to reach places so that initiates or necessitates communication or motivates the child to ask for these activities or objects. Or if the learner has a goal of practicing a certain skill, for example, like making his or her own snack, increase access by leaving materials within easy reach in certain stations or by labeling them. You can also support expressive communication by checking in about feelings, making pictures of faces with different expressions available to families to facilitate discussions about emotions is really helpful. Send out a digital choice board to help communicate about food selection. Encourage parents and caregivers to print these out or draw their own pictures. Most of us are probably very familiar with these ways to embed communication skills into everyday activities. But the takeaway here, hopefully, is that it can be helpful to give our learners home access to the same tools that we use at school. For more independent learners, teachers should consider that students may have the following questions when meeting online. How do I alert the teacher or professor when I have a question or comment? How do I step away from a live session? Do I announce that I'm leaving or just walk away from the computer? And where do I direct my gaze? A lot of us struggle with that. Like either we're looking at the person who's talking or we look at the little green light, or like me, we're going back and forth looking at notes. These can be tricky for everyone, but the not being able to navigate these social conventions can be stressful for a person with autism in an amplified way. So think about what protocols you would like to set up and address these issues early on for the comfort of all of your learners. If you guys have additional ideas for more independent learners, I would really love to know those. I tend to think about how to serve younger kiddos whose social learning abilities are still emerging, but we want to include a diverse group. So add your input in the chat if you are moved to do so. Behavior. Recognize that an increase in challenging behaviors may be an expression of anxiety or fear. We touched on that before when we were addressing challenges, thinking about those challenges. If a child has an effective behavior plan that can be successfully used in the home setting, something that's already implemented in school but can be used at home, families and caregivers should continue to use that same successful plan. So this means they need a reminder about what it is. I'm telling you, as an autism mom, that sometimes I'm sitting at these meetings and I'm going, wow, these are great ideas. These people really know what they're doing. I am in favor of what you're proposing, but I might not necessarily translate that to home or adhere to that guidance as explicitly and methodically as our teachers do. So things might get muddled, and it's a good time to encourage review of these types of plans. Socialization. Positive social support is important for everyone during this period, and individuals with autism may need more explicit facilitation to ensure that social connections continue. So caregivers may need to check in and help their own family dynamic by identifying close friends and positive peer relationships so that they can help develop a plan for how to connect. Younger students and those with those emerging social skills, perhaps it would be beneficial for them to schedule a time to connect. There are a lot of options out there, such as text messaging, FaceTime, Google Hangout, and other apps. And I would encourage you to try different options. Even though we were talking about being really consistent with your delivery system or for information, or whatever learning management system you plan to use, I do think when it comes to communication, you've got to try to address everyone, because if you're going to bring the class together, there should be options for everyone's comfort level and strengths. So if somebody hates phones, don't exclusively use the phone. If somebody can't text, don't exclusively use texting. It makes sense. Just trying out different options can help some students to venture out of their comfort zone, while also giving them the opportunity to participate in activities that they like. For more independent learners or those with expressive strengths, create assignments that might involve writing a letter. Create challenges like a photo collage or a cooking challenge that peers can all join in together. Use apps like Zoom to meet with others when you can. And I thought this was fantastic. I ran across this recently in my research, organizing watch parties for peers to experience educational movies or TV shows at the same time. These can be great springboards for discussion. So people feel connected, although all of the attention would be on one video or, streaming performance or something like that. That would be something that would work as a socialization tool for kids on the spectrum. So feel free to add to the list if you have created or participated in some social support situations that were effective and connective for you. Assessment. I think this is a really tricky one. Assessment is going to change, at least for a while. For kids with IEPs, this is not the optimal time to add new skills to an IEP. Focus on maintaining skills. And you can do that through the use of favorite apps and activities to practice reading, writing, mathematics. However, I would love to encourage you to include project-based or fine arts learning opportunities to foster connections to learning while encouraging that all-important social piece that our kids on the spectrum really need. For students in higher education, make your criteria super clear and check in on your student to make sure they understand expectations. Again, create those protocols for how students can reach out, ask questions, and consider what types of formative and summative assessments work best to monitor that your student is reaching learning targets and mastering content. If you give a project-based assignment, just know that some learners might prefer lots of guidance, step-by-step instructions, a rubric, a checklist. Yet this type of work can be a great opportunity to build confidence and for different types of thinking to really shine. Assessment can take the form of teacher observation, parent observation. You can use video and online tools to document the performance of certain skills, but this time we're just gonna have to be creative, but still gather data. So meeting software can be useful for assessing speech progress, but to be honest, I feel like occupational and physical therapies will require some in-person meeting with social distancing and security measures in place. My son is currently receiving services for speech therapy and occupational therapy where it's one-on-one. All participants are wearing masks. He may or may not be wearing a mask, but there's also a partition and sanitization. They take the temperature and everything. So let us know in the chat how your school, your district, or you, if you are a therapist, are providing those types of services and at what level we can be in person, and what types of strategies you think would work for online assessment for some of those. I know our occupational therapist sent us links to puzzles. My son loves puzzles, and doing puzzles with, I'm going to put it on the resource page of the PowerPoint, but it's like jigsaw online or something.com. And that's really helped him to see the big picture, put the little pieces in place, and engage in his puzzle interest. So let us know if you've got something similar or wildly different. We would love to know. Student engagement and family support. Avail students and families of these suggestions and supports for learning remotely. Be consistent. Kids on the spectrum have a hard time applying what they've learned from one setting in other settings, including home. So provide information about classroom protocols and respectfully encourage that families include these techniques at home. They might have their own way of doing things, but they probably will like a reminder of how you do things. Stick to a schedule. We all know that this is important, but structuring a schedule can be particularly effective for this population, organizing times for therapy, school, bedtime, etc. And consider the environmental arrangement. Design specific areas and where remote learning will take place. That can really help with behavior around transitions. Reward good behavior. Make a big deal out of the power of verbal praise and affection. Sometimes we're also go, 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 go. You know, it's that parent life. We're trying to achieve our objectives. And we want to make sure that we're remembering that it's not just pleasant, but it's also an important part of learning that we provide praise. And make time for fun. A child coping with autism spectrum disorder is still a child. For both children with ASD and their parents, there needs to be more to life than therapy. And I'd like to read you an excerpt from a book called Coloring Outside Autism's Lines by Susan Walton. The biggest mistake we can make is to put family fun at a low priority. It is easy to be consumed by the role autism forces us to play. We are caretakers, therapists, nutritionists, nurses, taxi drivers, and so much more. But for the sake of your child and your family, having fun needs to form a central part of any intervention and therapy that you pursue. The best way to increase your child's connectedness and ability to form attachments is to make sure that spending time together is as rewarding as possible. So often when treating autism, the term reward is used to describe a tangible or fleeting benefit provided by an adult who is trying to coax a desired behavior. These are styles of therapy built on the premise that controlling rewards leads to desirable behavior. But the feeling of reward that comes from access to a toy or earning a sticker is nothing compared to the feelings of joy and satisfaction associated with having fun with the people who are part of your child's life every day. In order to teach your child that connecting with family is rewarding, you have to make it rewarding. It has to feel pleasurable, warm, and gratifying, not momentary and fleeting, and immediately followed by another demand. Pay attention to what your child considers fun and put as much energy into a day together as you do in procuring therapy. Because the pursuit of fun is therapy in its own way, and it has outrageous benefits for the rest of your family too. What a wonderful reminder. And I have left info on this book on the resource slide. Tools, what works? We teach math, reading, and writing, but there are so many additional skills that can be targeted during this time. So I'll just let you look. I'll put everything up on this slide at once because I think you can just scan it with your eyeballs there. At-home items like percussive objects can help with imitation activities, listening and turn taking, matching pictures, matching objects. We can do this in laundry with socks. You know, there are so many ways that we can incorporate learning and academics into everyday activities, which is a plus for us being at home together. Pictures, using a family photo album to identify people or feelings. There are a lot of things that we have at home. We don't need to buy an educational supply. It's really probably more in an educational setting. We're trying to create things that might look like what someone has at home that are going to be all clean and laminated so that everyone can share. But these authentic items are fantastic. And if we remind parents that they can use these things, it will probably be a relief and make them excited about how they can help their child learn. Apps and software. I've put here a few that some of the teachers in my district have shared with me. TouchMath, Edmark, these are popular, and whatever your students are using at school. Once again, sometimes we parents, we don't think, oh yeah, we can do the same thing at home. My son still likes to look at Starfall, and you know, that's good cause and effect activity for him, making different selections and understanding how to navigate the computer. And I mentioned that Jig Zone. There's the real title of Jig Zone there. I think that that's a great one. If you have some that you would like to add to the list, please do. We can look at it in the chat. I'm going to look at the chat after this and can't wait to see what you've got there. So, of course, we all have our favorite apps and websites, and those are great to remember, but hopefully we can try some new ones as well. So I promised a success story, and I think that this one is inspiring. Let's look at the next slide. Just have a look at these images here. During April of 2020, when schools closed, art teacher Amanda Tudor, who's my friend, and she was one of the top 3 educators in Tennessee for the Teacher of the Year in Tennessee in the finals. She created a daily photo challenge on Instagram for her students and shared it on other forms of social media. And she invited the whole district to participate. There were close to 400 submissions in a month, and these are a few. When looking at the screen, this screenshot of multiple submissions of photos, isn't it interesting that you cannot determine the age, race, ability, or disability of any of the photographers? What a great level playing field this is. Got this quote from my friend Amanda. It has been said that photography is a language everyone can speak. People from all countries, all ages, regardless of ability or disability, can relate to and respond to images. I have found in my teaching practice that photography empowers students, and through it, they develop an ownership in how they view their world. When we praise their work, students are aware that we are praising their choices, which empowers them as people. This photography challenge was particularly effective and created a very rich and meaningful learning experience for a student of mine and a former student of Miss Tudor's. His name is Mikey. Mikey is autistic, and here are some of his submissions. His mom shared with me about his experience with this hands-on, project-based fine arts assignment. And these are her words. For a child living with autism, anxiety disorder, and ADHD, going through a pandemic that shuts down school can be more of a challenge than it is for a neurotypical student. Finding new ways to learn at home with the aid of amazing teachers is a blessing. One of Mikey's former art teachers that he had a special connection with and put out a photo challenge, this is Miss Tudor, on social media for the month of April. I read it to Mikey, and he was very enthusiastic about being a part of it. The entire family being at home and our daily routine being much different than what it normally looks like was in some ways a blessing, but also a curse. Routine is everything. I tried to set up each day as if it were a school day. I'm going to put a little asterisk in these, like, remember that we talked about the scheduling? This is what Mikey's mom did, and this was something that was very successful for them. So the proof is in the pudding there. We would follow along with the optional lessons provided for review by our district, but each day in April, Mikey was really looking forward to getting out and taking photographs. I often taunted it as a reward for staying focused on his academics. The photo challenge presented a new subject for every day. He really had to think about some of the choices. Animals, plants, and colors are easy, but points of view and perspectives are harder for individuals on the autism spectrum. We would spend time discussing each night what he thought he might take a picture of and where we might go for the picture the following day. It got us out of the house, cured some of the monotony from our daily schedule. And some days I was even able to use his photo subject to connect with his review schoolwork. Cross-curricular connections. We went over photosynthesis a number of times when Mikey took pictures of flowers or plants. We talked about animal habitats when he would take pictures of birds or snails. A photo of a light bulb offered a learning opportunity about energy, and taking a picture from a bird's eye view or a worm's eye view aided in teaching about descriptive language. He became more active during this time and spent more time outdoors. He was proud of his pictures and even edited his own photographs. I have always wanted to see the world through Mikey's eyes, and this challenge gave me that opportunity. It also gave Mikey the chance to learn in a different way. Since he is more of a visual and kinesthetic learner, his experience enhanced lessons in language, science, art, and technology. But more than that, it offered him a new sensory experience, one that would increase his decision-making skills, as well as oral and visual communication. It gave a child that struggles with speech a beautiful way to express himself and be heard. Wow. So I just want to give you a chance to process that, show you our resources slide here. I know that we are moments away from the end of our session, but we might have some time for Q&A, and don't forget to hang on for that keyword slide. What do you think, Sydney? Sydney, did you find some questions that I might be able to address for our participants before we go?
So far, actually, there are no questions in the chat that I'm seeing, but if you guys have any questions, feel free to leave them there. The chat is on the Institute website that we've been using all this week. The Zoom does not have the chat for, oh, that's your go-to thing if you want to talk.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you guys, if you have anything that you would like to put in the chat, even if you're taking a moment to navigate your technology right now, I will be having a look at that. And I've realized how to access, how I can go and say, oh, this person asked me this. So I can go and click on you within the CTE website and answer your question personally. So maybe they didn't ask any questions because that everything was just so comprehensive. There's nothing left to say. I don't know. If we see any, like I said, we'd love to answer them for you. I just want to thank you all for showing up today. Thank you, Sydney, for helping. And we have a lovely closed captioning. I think there was at least one participant who asked for closed captioning. So I really want to thank Joe for closed captioning for us today. Oh, look, it says Regina raised her hand. Is this something that's happening in the Zoom that we can't see because we're having two different formats maybe? Hi, Regina, I see your hand is up. Regina, when you go to the CTE website, there's a chat in there, or maybe it pops up in a different place during this real-time experience. I don't know. Look for that, Regina, and then I'll answer you this afternoon.
It is on the same page where you can find the survey link that you'll have to take in order to get credit for this. It's on that exact same page. You'll just have to, it's on the right side of it.
On the right side of the same page that's got the survey link that they want you to take. So
we haven't said the keyword just yet. She's going to be, and I'll post it in the chat when she does as well.
Okay, are we ready? Are we ready for that keyword? I know you guys would. The keyword is sandwich. That really tickled me. I like that word, sandwich. If you haven't had lunch today, go and get a sandwich.
And you can also find the PowerPoint and any other files she includes in the file section. It's in the same place with the chat. It's on the farthest to the right on the...
Yes. There's a really good document that it was available online, and I want to say it was like an Ohio school district or something did, and it's specific guidance for online learning for families with autism. So I think there would be no problem with you grabbing that and sharing that with your students' families. I'd like as many resources as I can get my hands on, even if some of them have some of the same things I've already read. It's just good to reiterate and solidify what we already know. So have a look at those. Have a look at the PowerPoint. Don't forget the keyword is sandwich. And thank you all for tuning in today. I'm so grateful that you were here. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
And you will have access to the chat and the files even after this meeting is over. You can come back to it at any time.
Yes. I'm going to stop share now. Let's see. I think I am. There we go. Okay, everybody. So look at that. 3 minutes of your life you got back. I think we'll just go ahead and end the session. Thank you so much for tuning in. And take care. Be well. Bye, everybody.